Hello and welcome to a new video game. Today we'll be discussing 3 things wrong with Scoob 2020. Let's begin.
Everything changes.
Now, I first heard about Scoob 2020 back in 2016, and this film was originally supposed to be released in 2018. So I've been looking forward to this for the better part of 4 years, and I really wanted to like it. But unfortunately, terrible writing, conflicting visions, and apparent corporate overreach once again strikes really close to home in this would-be instant classic, if not for these 3 crucial areas in which Scoob 2020 messes up completely. Number 1. Unlikable characters. This movie starts off so well. It's got heart, it's got good animation, and it's got almost everything you love about classic Scooby-Doo. Even referencing one of Scooby-Doo's most obscure 90s shows, actually it's only 90s show, a pup named Scooby-Doo. And growing up with that show, I was so excited. But after the theme song hits, and it wasn't even that good of a rendition / remake of the theme song, everything falls apart. Literally, the first thing we are hit with after the formation of our classic crew is Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell! Out of all people coming in and telling Mystery Inc. that whatever they've been doing for the last couple of years doesn't work and is not worth investing in because Scooby and Shaggy are useless. He also then stereotypes Fred by calling him the muscle, stereotypes Daphne by calling her the empath, the people person, and stereotypes Velma by calling her the smart one. The only accurate thing he says. Now, if anybody knows anything about Scooby-Doo, Fred is the trap guy, Scooby and Shaggy are the bait. Yes, they're cowards, but they still pull their weight here and there. And Daphne is danger-prone. She's the stereotypical damsel in distress. She's not a people person, and I guess it was alright foreshadowing, but it's besides the point. This completely messes up their entire friendship. They're all the worst friends, if you ask me, because for the rest of the entire film, everybody's arguing with everybody else. This conversation in the beginning of the film fractures the gang, into 2 factions, Scooby and Shaggy, Fred, Daphne, and Velma. Oh my gosh, I wanted to see a Scooby-Doo film, but we see the entire gang split up for the entire movie. Then on top of that, the individual factions start arguing with each other. Fred starts making fun of Velma for being so scientific, and Velma makes fun of Fred for being the dumb muscle. And then Daphne comes to the conclusion that they're all just hangry because if Scooby and Shaggy are good for nothing else, at least they remind them to have lunch so that way they don't get hangry with each other. I couldn't believe this. I literally couldn't believe this. Later we get Shaggy and Scooby arguing because they're also the worst ever friends, because on top of their already rocky relationship, we get Scooby wanting to be a superhero because Blue Falcon thinks that Scooby's important simply because the bad guy wants him. The second Blue Falcon realizes that Shaggy is not wanted by the villain, then he's no longer important. And this fractures Scooby and Shaggy's really, really dumb relationship, and Shaggy even gives Scoob the nod to take off the precious collar that he gave him when they were kids / a puppy. And then he gets mad at Scooby for doing that. And they're arguing for a lot of the film. And then on top of that, Blue Falcon and Dog Wonder are constantly arguing as well. Dynamite hates Blue Falcon for not being Blue Falcon, and Blue Falcon hates Dynamite because He wants him to be Blue Falcon instead of being so self-absorbed and a coward and, oh gosh, like, just why? Why? Long story short, all the characters are unlikable. All they do throughout the entire film is just argue constantly. And then this is a major problem for two reasons. One, every character is suffering from the same flaw. Every character then learns the same lesson at the same point in the movie. And it just doesn't work. It literally gave me a headache. I couldn't take it. Why? These are the heroes, the protagonists. You can't write them in a way that people won't like them, that people get annoyed at them, that people hate them. They simultaneously tried to act as if these characters were true to the original while being in a new light, but neither was executed well. And so the sad part is that the only consistent character is the villain, Dick Dastardly. The only likable character is the villain. The only sensible character is the villain. The only faithful to the original source material character is the villain. When all the protagonists are unlikable and your villain is the best part of the movie, this is a serious issue. The beginning of the movie started off with a lot of heart, but it quickly lost that once the characters, all of the main ones, just descended into constant bickering. And that is the primary flaw with this film. Number 2. Now, when you have a film that is this messed up, I was completely flabbergasted. I didn't know what on earth could have been the root cause. Where did this go so horribly wrong? And then, Chris Stuckman brilliantly pointed it out. When you have this many screenwriters and story writers, there's going to be issues. Especially when their previous writing credits include Alvin and the Chipmunks, Playing with Fire, and Rampage. Immediately, this made sense to me. Because, similar to how when I found out that the director of Dora the Explorer was the same director as the 2011 Muppets, it made perfect sense. I couldn't believe it. You get a brilliant guy who's full of talent, you give him literally anything and he can make it work. But if you hire bad writers, you will get bad results. After watching this movie, I literally came to the conclusion that these writers must have only seen one episode of Scooby-Doo and then decided, let's make a movie. I was also wondering if the corporate overlords at WB had seen Captain Underpants, Peanuts, the Lego Batman movie, Mr. Peabody and Sherman, and they just said, oh, make us one of those, but with Scooby-Doo. Make us one of those. And then, don't make it Scooby-Doo. Finally, I just want to mention how nothing exemplifies this point more than the casting choices. Because I didn't mind the casting, but you can clearly see how the corporate overlords were prioritizing a star-studded cast over anything else, and it shows. To help drive this point home, a good friend of mine, Sky from Sky Films, is here to offer his take on why the corporate/writing side of this film just completely failed. Sky, take it away.
Thanks for the introduction, Chucky. When it comes to writing, Scoob has 4 writing credits and 2 additional story credits. This becomes very apparent throughout the film's runtime, as it tries to do too much at once. On one hand, you have a pretty good adaptation of the Scooby-Doo formula with a couple of love letters to Hanna-Barbera. On the other hand, you have this kind of superhero narrative that tries to capitalize on Avengers and subvert the formula that's already there. So, because of this split mindset, the film suffers and doesn't really know what it wants to be. Does it want to change the formula? Does it want to keep to the formula? It tries doing the fast-paced comedy that's found in Peabody and Sherman, Lego Movie, and Paddington, but it just falls flat. It sounds like what a bad fan fiction would believe is comedy that would be found in these films. Unlike other films, like Lego Batman movie, take that for example. The Lego Batman movie takes all the other versions of Batman, the Nolan trilogy, the Tim Burton trilogy, the TV show, the cartoons, everything, and it puts it into one mindset and embraces it all, but also changes it. That's what a good parody does. In a way, this film is trying to be that. It's trying to be a good parody. But good parodies have to have faith in the original property. Great artists like Mel Brooks and Weird Al Yankovic know this very well. They are great fans of the original media. And even though they spoof on it here and there and kind of poke and jab, they're doing it out of love. Some of these writers, I don't feel love Scooby-Doo. I feel like they kind of want to distance themselves from Scooby-Doo. They want to make an action movie, which is not what Scooby-Doo is, you know? And it would be fine if it did it well, but because of the unfocusedness, it kind of doesn't do anything well. It can't focus on one thing to do well. If you want to do a completely different Scooby-Doo film that has barely anything to do with Scooby-Doo, but it's still a good film on its own, go ahead. If you want to do a faithful parody of the original while keeping true to the original narrative, go ahead. Don't try to do all at once, because then you end up with what we have now, pretty much nothing. So that's my thoughts on Scoob. If you like my content, I'll link my channel down below. I post skits, commentary videos, and recently I've been writing the Morning, Noon, Night script, which is going to be hopefully a feature-length movie. So we'll see where that goes. If you like content like mine, please consider subscribing to Plot Twist Entertainment. That's where all my friends are, and we post very similar content for your enjoyment. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me, Chucky.
Please check out Sky's channel and any other channels that are part of Plot Twist Entertainment. We also have Red Raptor Rights and Cartoon Connoisseur, who have some amazing content. Please check them out. Moving on to number 3, No Heart. This film pays respects to Scooby-Doo merely on the aesthetic surface level. It had no understanding of the source material, and it had no heart. And what made this worse is the fact that the first 15 minutes, up until the theme song, had good heart. I was feeling it. It was a little cheesy, it was a little poorly written, but I could feel it. I could see what they were trying to do. But after the theme song, it completely drops off. And for me, that is one of the biggest sins you could commit while making a film. And that's showing that you can do it and then utterly failing. I also don't understand how hard this could be. We are in the year 2020. The year 2020. We're not talking we're in the year 2000, where James Gunn is looking to try and put his unique spin on Scooby-Doo. We're not at a time period where fans no longer have a voice, where superhero movies, we're lucky if they are even representing the source material a smidge. We live in the year 2020. They just announced the Snyder Cut, for crying out loud. That's how much say the fans have at the moment. And surprisingly, a 50-year-old property. 50-year-old property. Scooby-Doo has been around for 51 years. Since 1969. And it's been done so many different ways. Ways that worked brilliantly. Ways that failed miserably. 50 years of trial and error. And this, the first theatrical, or would-be theatrical, Scooby-Doo animated movie, falls flat on its face. How? This is not a live-action movie where they're trying to replicate something in real life that looks a whole lot better in animation. This is not something that they were limited to by budget or time constraints. This took an extra 2 years of development hell, probably, and it still came out a terrible product. If they'd have done anything half as decent as Mystery Inc., this movie could have done an 8 out of 10 in my opinion. If they'd have done a standard stereotypical film in the vein of the annual direct-to-video releases, That could have easily have been a 5 or 6 out of 10. You can take anything else Scooby-Doo related, put it on a dartboard, spin it at top speed and throw a dart at it. And 99.9% of the time, anything you hit on that dartboard would have been better than this film. I give it a 2 out of 10. It gave me a headache, and it made me really sad. And it just goes to show that even if you try and include fan service, even if you try and respect the source material, if it's not coupled with bad writing, it's not worth it. Good writing can help make the absence of fan service excusable, but fan service coupled with bad writing just doesn't work. I doubt if we're ever gonna get a good theatrical Scooby-Doo movie. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed my take on Scoob 2020. I hope that it wasn't as disappointing for you as it was for me, but for me it hit really hard. And like I said, it honestly gave me a headache. But please like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, and please remember to check out the other channels associated with Plot Twist Entertainment. And I'll see you on my next Video Gambit. Thanks for watching.